EPPI.
Is it I?
Mm-hmm.
You sure about that?
Yeah. Here, let me
Aye.
go to my, hold on. Let me get
Double
the
check.
email address. EPPI.app is to apply. Is to ask a question. And then EPP dot, hold on, where's the other one?
Sub.
That one's
Submit
to
your
submit.
docs.
I can't remember which is which. Hold on.
All right. Yeah, that submits your that's right there.
The app one is the one that submits.
Well, that's how you request an application. You submit with SUB. EPPI.sub.
Yep.
So that's APP. Repeat that again so I have it right.
EPPI.app, APP, at door.org.
Okay, hold on. It's a dot. Let me change that. Can I change this? Oh.
I don't think you can. I don't think you can edit it. I think you just have to type it again.
Okay, I'm just gonna. Michelle, you typed it in there, can you? Please.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I'm
I'm
gonna erase the
going
other
to
one.
copy it right from their email. That way.
You have the option to edit this.
Copy.
Yeah, the text box is the one part of Zoom that has never gotten any real upgrades. I would have loved the opportunity to delete people who were advertising themselves, but that were not paying members of FFREIA. People who come for one meeting and are like, hey, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. Here's my information. Call me. And then they leave and never come back. It's like, we don't need you. Thanks anyway. Would have been great to be able to delete those people. Just saying.
How many we got here? 16. Do we have anybody who's kind of new? We have Donna.
Mhm.
Marianne, you've been here before, right? Okay, and then where'd the other lady go? Pat, you've been here. She took off. Oh, Courtney, have you been here before? If you're around. We'll start with Donna. What we do is new folks, introduce yourself, tell us about your real estate experience and how you found FFREIA, and have at it.
Okay, so I moved to Rochester in 1990. Was managing co-op apartments in New York City. Moved to Rochester. It was kind of a different ball game up here. Whole new environment. Took me a year just to chill out, it was a good chill out. But it wasn't until the early 2000s I started buying some properties up here. Had a career change, went into teaching, bilingual special ed teacher for the city of Rochester. It's been very fun. So I started with buying a couple of properties, not knowing anything about the market here. So the first group I was going to buy one, and this person, his husband had passed, and she goes, no, you got to make me an offer on all of his properties. So I made a ridiculous offer, and she actually took it. Couldn't sleep for 2 weeks. Didn't know what I was doing, and started researching immediately about something called Section 8, DHS, low-income housing. I didn't even know the locations about Rochester. That's how ignorant I was. Anyway, it all worked out really well. It's been quite a ride. Learned how to do my own evictions. Don't do those anymore. So primarily do single family houses. I have one double that I had my family buy. It was like a candy store up here compared to Long Island. Have had properties downstate, but you really can't touch a lot down there. It's kind of insane. The taxes are absolutely ludicrous. So anyway, to make a long story short, I've now ventured out into learning about commercial property. I bought the property in front of Kodak Theater, the little peninsula there. So waiting to start doing some construction there, and got a greenhouse out in Penfield. That's been kind of fun. So I'm kind of just trying different things now. Always learning. It's been quite a learning experience. Would I do it again? In a heartbeat. Even during the pandemic, I've learned to recreate myself, and unfortunately or fortunately, I'm very extremely hands-on with my tenants, where I was actually dropping off care packages to even my tenants who weren't paying me. At the end of the day, it all worked out. It's all good. Would probably a lot of people do this? Probably not. I've learned as the years have gone on, this is not for everybody. But I honestly love it. Have I talked too much?
You're good. Welcome to your first meeting. Carl's muted. He doesn't realize he's muted yet. So I'm just gonna
I almost
let
did my
him
sign
know.
language, like, hello.
Thanks, Tom. I'm talking and I can't hear nothing. Courtney's been here before, right? Courtney, you want to chime in? Shy? Well, let's get it going here. So
Actually, I think Courtney is actually Matt.
Matt, okay.
So
Okay.
shows up as Courtney,
If he
but
chimes
it's
in, he
Matt.
chimes in. We have a lot of ground to cover today. Of course, like I say, each month it's all going to change for the following month, right? So we'll start off with, show me the money, right? But before we do that, I want to just touch upon what we touched upon last, and we're going to table this, and that's the Rochester Housing Court special part. So that's still in committee in Albany, and I have a feeling it's going to stay there for a little bit, but it is coming. It's a special housing court. And the purpose, in a nutshell, is to really clamp down hard on slumlords. There's a broader term of that, but that's really what that's there for. But we're going to table that and talk about that next month. All right, the money. So we're right in the midst of this big bank account to go get some rent relief, right? Called EP2, and it's started April 1st. And the ones who had index numbers started March 15th. I had about 20 of those. And I'm getting a bunch of commitment letters right now, also called RAAs, rent relief agreements. And in a minute, I want to hear your stories and where you are and your experiences, and maybe share some do's and don'ts. So just so everybody's aware, there are 3 funding packs moving consecutively. The first one was CARES Act last year. That's gone. That was EP1. EP2 is this one here. That's right now. Applications are flying. This one here, the housing provider can apply on behalf of the tenant. There's 21 million bucks there. We got the whole year to wipe out that money. And so far it's doing pretty good. There's 13 agencies that are doing this, and the tenants start with calling 211. For the housing provider, if you want to start the application process, in the chat box is the email address, eppi.app. That's to seek out an application to start the process. And once you get all the documents in, the second one is eppi.sub to submit documents. Providence Housing is the only agency doing the landlord housing provider applications. So, Michelle, jump in anytime.
Yeah, in what I've been doing so far, if anyone is going to apply on behalf of their tenants, I highly recommend you get all of the documents in advance, and then also ask them in advance if they've called themselves any 211 or any of the agencies. I have a couple of times gone through the whole application process with a tenant to then find out that they started an app through 211 and EPPI could not process the app that I sent. So I had to then work with the agency that took their initial call. So number one, I would ask the tenant if they called 211 or if they called any agency. And then number two, I would request all of the documents. There are two median income charts, an 80% and a 50%. I'm still unclear as to which one they're using for what. But you can qualify them, even though the tenant probably still wants you to submit the app. You'll know from the documents they send you whether or not they're going to get approved or denied. So that, may help in prioritizing their app over another or giving them better information. But I've done probably a dozen or so far, and wide variety of different challenges.
12 of you submitting from your or the tenant submitting.
No, that I have submitted. The various other tenants have gone through 211, through Restoration Rochester, Urban League, and some other ones. But if the tenants were allowing me to submit on their behalf, I just took the power and got the applications done.
Right, and so my approach was, because I have about 25 that are sitting in the category here. So I had letters that went out long ago announcing the program and the information they need to start to get together, and the process to call 211, and just to find out who's going to take the effort and the time to take the initiative, run with it, right? So I want them to do as much as possible. So let a week or two go behind, and I haven't heard from somebody. I called them. How are we doing with the 201? What's the update? Oh yeah, I called them. I'm working with this. We're going to have blah, blah, blah. And I have about 5 silent. So I'm this week I'm going to take a visit to the property and with my application, Michelle, and ask them if they've initiated an application. If not, we're going to do it right there. So that's my process right now. And in that letter that I sent out long ago, I feel that tenants tend to respond with incentive. So what I do is, in my introduction letter, is if you complete the rent relief program, including the current month, it's all paid up. You get 1 month's free rent to do as you wish. So
Oh, wow.
that's out there. And in the CARES Act, 2 people did that out of maybe about 30. Yeah. There's one thing, Michelle, that's I've heard from a credible source, but yet I don't see it written anywhere. Maybe you could help out. And what that is, if you receive or accept rental relief, you therefore give up any additional past rent beyond a year. Is that true, or don't you know?
No, the only thing that I've heard so far is number one, you can't increase their rent for 12 months from the date of funding. You cannot charge them late fees for 12 months from the date of funding. And you cannot non-renew or terminate their lease for anything outside of non-payment or nuisance or lease violation for 12 months. I haven't heard anything about past rents or
Okay.
anything of the sort.
Yeah, so that doesn't preclude you from doing an eviction for non-payment. For
Correct.
non-payment, lease violations, serious lease violations, you can still bring that action forth.
Correct. What they're trying to prevent is giving you 12 months of back rent, 3 months of future rent, and then the following month you terminate their lease, because in New York right now, you don't have to have a reason. So they want to make sure that the tenant doesn't then end up homeless.
Correct. Yep. And so we have a third epi coming up. That's the 1.9 trillion stimulus that was passed in January. That's under construction. And we heard that it's pretty much going to model this one. And there's 20 million bucks in that one. So there's a lot of money out there. We're in a pool of 21 million now. 20 million is coming up. And then we have a new one, and I'll go over this a little bit in a minute. And that's the one that was just passed 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago in the state budget. The COVID-19 Emergency Rental Assistance Program of 2021. Anybody know about that? That's going to be rolling out late May and June. 2.4 billion in federal and state funding. Now this is statewide.
Yeah,
FP1
this
and
is the
2.
one where they're going to have the portal, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The FP1 and 2 is county city.
Yes.
Just to clarify.
And this is federal.
There is a lot of similarities between the EPIs and the federal, but I'm going to go through quite a few of differences here that are pretty intriguing. So I'll do that in a second.
And from my understanding, you cannot do both. So if it's found that you have an application in place through this county and city, and the federal is easier, or the tenant will qualify, then you want to withdraw your app from the city, county, and then apply federal.
Yeah, and the way I'm seeing this, Michelle, after reading it, the city county is less harsh and not so restrictive. And when you hear the differences, you'll see what I mean. Did you have a chance to read that at all?
No, can you email that to me? I don't think
yeah.
I've seen that yet
Yeah.
in writing.
Yeah. So this was part of the state budget that was passed, and part of this was for rent relief. Cool. Right. It's going to be administered through the Office of Temporary Disability Assistance, OTDA. Now it says here municipalities that receive direct federal aid for rental assistance may opt into the program for use of local residents. What that sounds like, I don't know, is if they opt in, then they could funnel the money locally and use our own agencies to administer. I take that from that thing. They refer to eligibility for small landlords. They define small landlords of owning a building of 20 or fewer units. That's a building now, not total units. So that begs the question: if I have a 25 unit building and 10 doubles, am I disqualified, or can I at least apply for the 10 doubles? Right. So we need some clarity there. Yeah, the regulations and the rollout is under construction right now. Really don't know the details. Later May, June is. I have a feeling it's going to be more June than anything.
Which may not necessarily be a bad thing, because if we can get through the county and city, and then this portal opens, whoever has been denied or whoever hasn't been processed yet would just funnel them right into the federal program.
Yeah. And just like the EPIs, they go back 12 months ahead, 3 months thing. This is interesting. So because it's statewide, the commissioner wants to equitably distribute these funds. So he's having a 30-day window when they roll this out of anywhere in the state other than New York City and the 5 boroughs can apply. They're blocked out for 30 days. After 30 days, New York City is wide open. So you got that 30 days of getting in front of the line there. Let me see here. Oh, this is interesting, Michelle. Those who receive federal subsidized housing, Section 8, are eligible to the extent funds remain after serving everybody else. So in other words, they're at the end of the line. And another note with that is on the second page, those on public assistance are not precluded from receiving emergency rental or utility assistance. So on public assistance, apparently you can apply. I don't know why, if they're paying all the rent, the partial rents, right? So Michelle, how they're handling the 50%, 80% AMI is, I think they're utilizing that more for the 3 months ahead rent thing. I was told that the 50%, they qualified more for the 1, 2, 3 ahead assistance. So that's how I took it. This is an interesting one. Municipalities can designate a non-for-profit agency to file on behalf of a household. Cool. Can you think of a reason why that would happen?
Perhaps like PCHO, or somewhere where a tenant has a rep payee or a caseworker where they're not maybe capable of filing on their behalf, on their own.
Yeah, well, there's a mental
Right.
learning
Mm-hmm.
disability going on. Yeah. This is the portal, Michelle. So they will provide a mechanism where both landlord and tenant can track, regardless of who submits the application through the portal.
Great.
Hopefully that'll be up and running. This is important. So eviction proceedings for a holdover or expired lease or non-payment that would be eligible for coverage under the program. Those evictions for those households have made the application on the program, or stayed until a determination of ineligibility is made. For those eviction proceedings commenced, those proceedings will be stayed pending a determination of eligibility. So you really can't go. You got to wait to see what the results are if they apply to this process in terms of your eviction.
Or if you have an eviction in process and your court date will be adjourned until the app process is completed.
Yeah,
But I spoke with Restoration Rochester, who's one of the agencies chosen to facilitate the city and county program. They have a table in court. So they're catching tenants as they come in who may not have applied, and are qualifying them and doing their apps right in the courtroom.
Correct. So up in court, there's a table for DHS, a table for the agencies, and they rotate. It's not the same agency all the time. They rotate because it gets a little boring up there. But yeah, they come right out of court. You sit down and go through the process, and it's a great resource up there. Michelle, do me a favor. Why don't you just talk a little bit about this stuff? I got to get rid of this dog. Be right back.
So my biggest challenge, and I'm hoping that they'll come up with a solution here shortly, is the tenants who perhaps owe 12 months back rent and do not qualify for back rent assistance. We've been working with NACA's office, and because of the eviction moratorium, if they do the hardship, they cannot be evicted. So we're kind of trying to do a little backdoor thing where we then do an order to show cause to bring them into court to hopefully get them to show, prove that they've been COVID affected, so that we can get them in front of a judge and either get a judgment, a warrant, a payment plan, something. So Karl, I was just saying, my biggest challenge is tenants who owe back rent, don't qualify for the program, do the hardship, and we can't get them into court.
You got a couple
So
like that, huh?
we're working on that. Yep.
Okay. So going on, I think Michelle mentioned this. Acceptance of payment for rent arrears shall constitute this agreement. Arrears are covered, are satisfied, and not to be used as the basis for non-payment of rent evictions. You waive the late fees. Not increase the monthly rent for 1 year after payment of the first rental assistance is received. Not to evict for the reasons of expired lease or holdover tenancy for 1 year, as Michelle mentioned at the beginning. That's weird. Notify the tenant of protections afforded under law. I'll get that to you. So those are some of the differences with the state one coming out a little bit later on. Anybody else would like to share their experience with the current rent relief process, and tell us about what's happened with you?
or have any questions. Carl and I have been through several apps that we can answer.
I got a quick question. What happens if you have a tenant who is not willing to work with you and doesn't want to fill out any paperwork or call anybody? What do you do then?
So what I've been doing is I mail them a letter requesting that they complete the application along with all of the documents and mail it back to me, or call 211, get the application started, and provide me with the caseworker's information. I give them 7 days to do this. I send them the letter, certified mail, regular mail. If they fail to do so, the eviction process begins, and then we do an order to show cause if they do the hardship or if we get an adjournment. So in hopes of bringing them into court. And that will typically get them to take action.
Versus the 14-day pay or quit angle, Michelle?
No, all of it. So I do the notice of non-receipt of rent for each month that they owe. We do the 14-day pay or quit along with this letter. So by the time it gets to the attorney, we've done the notice of non-receipt, the 14-day, and then we've also sent them by certified mail and regular mail the rent relief application, a letter explaining that they need to complete this to avoid immediate court action. And then if they fail to do so, in addition to eviction filing, we file the order to show cause to get them into court.
Talk about that OTC. So have you done any of those recently, and what's been the outcome?
Aaron is working on getting a couple of them in now. We did just get our very first warrant for eviction today. So we're waiting to see if the marshal will serve it. So more to follow on that.
Yeah. Word has it that they're not serving until May.
Right.
So was this a non-show warrant? No show?
This one was, yes.
Yeah,
After 10 adjournments, 8 adjournments, it's been quite a few.
Yeah, I got one too today, and they're parked right now.
I'm happy to have it in hand.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. But
yeah.
What's interesting now is, May 1 is right around the corner. What's big about May 1? We all know, right? That big declarations stay everything to May 1, right? So I think I'm hearing some rumbles and some noise that that might be extended. Anybody else hear some noise about that? To try to coincide with the CDC moratorium, move to July 1. Go ahead.
My crystal ball says it's getting extended. It would not make any sense to not.
Oh boy.
But I hope I'm wrong.
I had the same reaction. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope I'm wrong too. But yeah, so that it gets extended and to try to sync it up with CDC to July 1. Who knows what's going to happen, right?
I mean, if that's the case, we may have to move into some quote unquote early terminations with moving expenses to get some of these tenants out.
Then you got
voluntary.
And then you get the cash for key thing is an
right.
option.
Which can't call it that anymore.
Yeah. We call it that here. So
early termination of lease.
Oh man.
Did that answer your question, Joe?
Somewhat, yes. I mean, it sounds to me like for all the stuff you're doing, I'm like, would it be worth it for me to have the attorney do exactly what you're talking about? Obviously, you know what you're doing, plus you're a management company. At the same time, for somebody like me, I would get one thing wrong and they throw everything right out of court. That's something that I would be afraid of.
Yeah, anything with court, Joe, yeah, you have your attorney do it. But the pre-court stuff, I would encourage you to do it because you know that person. You know when and how to negotiate, what to offer, not to offer. The attorney doesn't know that stuff. So you're working the front end to try to get this guy to cooperate or out, and if you get to an impasse, now you throw the attorney into the picture.
Right. Based on the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019, the notice of non-receipt of rent letters is supposed to go to the tenant for each month that they owe. That's the first step. So, John Smith, you haven't paid your April rent. It is now April 6th, and the rent due for April is X. That has to happen for every month. And then step 2 is the 14-day pay or quit. So you can serve it, you can have your attorney serve it. And then step 3 is actually filing for court. They are taking court filings, so you could do that. And then if your tenant files the hardship or still doesn't comply, then you can do step 4 and get them the application in person via the mail. And if they fail to proceed with that, then you can do your order to show cause if needed.
Order to show cause, on what premise versus a petition?
So if they submit their hardship declaration that says they're COVID affected, can't be evicted, but they haven't done anything to get themselves help, then we can bring them into court to either prove that they're COVID affected or get them to do the application in court. Chances are, if they're not completing the application, it's because they don't qualify. I had a tenant who applied, and aside from 2 W-2 incomes, she received $33,000 from unemployment. So she's not in the 50%, the 80% in any bracket, and still haven't been able to get her into court. So that's one of the ones that we're trying to do this with.
Where's my CDD stuff? Oh, there it is up there. Joe, I think you were alluding to just this guy just won't do nothing, period, right? Even though you tried all that stuff. And so
Well, yeah, I mean,
sure.
I've had people ask me this question, and I'm like, I've got great tenants, so I haven't had that problem, but I know other people who are.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know this one guy, he owes like 16 or 17,000. They work. As a matter of fact, they're on Facebook talking about how they're going to Vegas, to go spend money and have a great time. And they work, but he knows they're not going to be. He knows that these people are not going to fill out any paperwork whatsoever. So, and I'm like, I also want to be prepared just in case, which I hope to God it doesn't happen to me. At the same time, I want to be prepared to know what I got to do. And from what Michelle, you were talking about, for me, I would be like Steve or Aaron. I mean, I like using Aaron for the evictions. I would just have her do whatever has to be done, because I've seen too many people get stuff thrown out, and we're so far along with this. We're going, a year now, over a year. I would I would rather spend a couple $100 just to make sure I'm getting these people out, in a timely fashion versus getting, kicked down the road and having to start over again because of my lack of knowledge of knowing what the heck to do. I'm not as
Joe,
versed as well as both you two.
You have something that a lot of us don't have. That's called the power of persuasion. I'm sure you can use that to get him out.
Well, either that or a gallon of gas and a match, but that wouldn't be good.
No. Michelle, have you talked to any marshals lately?
I have not.
I got to call Joe. Usually I call him once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I need to call him to follow up on the warrant that was just issued. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. I'll let you know if what I hear from him.
Absolutely. Yeah, and before all those cases that from December up until now, if you got a warrant, they were just holding them until somebody says, okay, we could do it now. But they said that before you can actually serve the warrant, you got to come back for a hearing again.
That was this one.
Okay.
So we got a warrant. The warrant was then issued in error. Then they had to do whatever other their paperwork, and then this was the next court date after that. And then I'm assuming they didn't show, so we got the real warrant instead of the fraudulent one. So
Now, an important part of this process, Michelle's mentioned 14-day notices, petitions, orders for cause, warrants. Every one of those things that you do, you have to have the hardship declaration with it. It's your
in
job,
English and in Spanish.
or the primary language.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that. Hold on a second. Let me pull it out here. I just had it.
And they,
Yeah.
when they send the tenants their court paperwork, a copy of it is also included.
That's
When they
right.
go to the courtroom, they're also handed a copy. So there's, at every step of the way, the tenant knows that they can file for COVID hardship.
And there's no contesting of that. There's no.
Correct.
It's just like what they say is true. So unlike the CDC, we'll get that in a second. So they call this the COVID-19 Emergency Eviction and Foreclosure Prevention Act of 2020. That was that, declaration of hardship, 14 days. Yeah, all along the way, there's no reason why they don't get that and sign that, and that's the end of it, till May 1. That's why May 1. If they extend that, now we're screwed to whatever, July 1. Now we're stuck again for 2 more months. Even at the warrant stage. And then if you were to file, if you were not to get if you got a declaration, you stop. Everything's on hold to May 1, right? But if you don't get a declaration and you file a petition, you have to show to the court through an affidavit that you have served that declaration before they'll take the filing. So keep that in mind. If they come to court, they don't have a declaration, judge automatically does a 10-day stay. Here's your declaration. You got 10 days, fill it out, come back. Along with that, it's our job to notify them all their legal free representation availabilities. We have to notify them. There's a separate page that here's some free legal services you might want to check into. Yeah, it's our job to have to provide that. Amazing. Anything to add?
Nothing kind. This too shall pass is all that's keeping me sane.
Yeah. Well, the good thing is it's not all doom and gloom. I mean, we got this huge pile of money that's there. I've got about 10 commitment letters in. I mean, we're 8,000-9,000, boom, boom, boom. And the process was pretty swift, especially with CFC, Michelle. I don't know if you experienced with them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But I think they're bending the rules a little bit over there.
Possibly.
Yeah. Just to get this money out the door.
That they have to spend it. I think there's, I don't remember the specifics, but I think they're obligated to spend it by a certain date. So I think in the beginning, they're going to maybe be more strict. And then as time goes on, I think we may see things loosen. We may have tenants that will be eligible to reapply. Perhaps their situation will change. I did also hear that there will be 100 million set aside, and it's not guaranteed yet, for tenants who are refusing or for midnight moves. So we're hopeful that some of the lost rents that may, typically be non-recoverable, we'll be able to get some funding on. So stay
That's good
tuned.
news.
Stay tuned
So
for
yeah,
that.
Michelle, the date, December 21. Basically, we have the whole year to unload this money.
Mm-hmm.
I also heard that if you received past like the CARES Act money, and you're behind, you can still apply and get qualified.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yes. I don't know if they will deduct, I'm pretty sure they'll deduct those months that you received rent assistance through another agency, because they're only supposed to pay 12 months back rent starting March 2020. So my assumption is if a tenant received 3 months back rent instead of 12, they'll only get 9. But I haven't seen an approval come through with something like that yet, but that would be my guess.
So the New York eviction prevention is taking the lead, is the primary tool that's being used. In the background is the CDC moratorium, and with some real differences too. The CDC allows you to still file petitions, but you cannot physically evict anybody until the moratorium is over. You can get a judgment, but you can't evict. There is also they also have to have a declaration signed. Michelle, do you have any CDC ones?
Yes.
What's been your experience?
I mean, I'm moving forward with filing for all of them. If they get back rent assistance, great. If they don't, then I already have it in place so that when the moratorium is lifted, we're ready to go. I also think that it lights a fire under that tenant's butt, because they know that we're continuing the process, that they need to do something, whether it be move or apply for rent assistance or get on a payment plan. So yeah, we're just moving forward regardless and counseling the tenants that will communicate however we can.
The CDC deals with non-payment only. Holdovers, lease violations, you can still move forward with those. Interestingly enough, this order, CDC order, does not stop you from challenging the truthfulness of the renter's declaration in any state or municipal court. So you
And
can.
that's
you
the
can
order
challenge.
to show cause.
Gotcha. What was it, based upon a CDC affidavit? Or declaration?
Yes, the 2 that I'm doing now are both CDC.
Bingo. You got it right there. Well, the CDC also said that you do not have an obligation to notify the tenants of their rights under the moratorium, under the order. The fact that there's a declaration that they can sign, you have no duty or right to do that or have to do that. Whereby the state moratorium, it is your duty to do that to get in court. And you have to prove it too to get in court. So big difference up until 4 days ago. So another entity of government steps in. On April 19th, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, CFPB, issued an interim final ruling requiring debt collectors, AKA housing providers, we are now debt collectors, to provide written notice to renters of their rights under the CDC's eviction moratorium, and prohibiting debt collectors, us, from misrepresenting renters' eligibility for protection from eviction under the moratorium. So they just stripped that out of CDC of the fact that we don't have to notify them. This order says, now you do.
Which I think we were anyway,
That
to
starts
comply
May 3rd.
with the state and city.
Yeah, this is just CDC, the
Yeah.
CDC one. That starts May 3rd. So just a little, and it just came on my desk today. Anybody else with their stories or questions?
Anybody have any success stories they want to share?
Please. Yeah, it's always doom and gloom now, right? Da, da, da.
Oh, hi, it's Tony.
Hey, Tony.
I had some of my well, they're still my tenants, but back a few months ago, applied and through 211, and I was able to receive some back rent at that time.
Excellent. That must have been the EPPI one.
One was through Community Place,
Yeah.
administered it, and one was some federal relief. I'm not sure. I think the check and it didn't register with me. And another one was Catholic Family Charities. So
Yeah,
there's three.
and the last one goes back 6 months. That's gone. This one here is 12 months. So that's cool. Colleen's coming on. Anything else, Tony?
No, that was it. I had that so far, and I got some other people applying, and we're just starting that process where I'm applying on their behalf.
Michelle and others, how about this? How about the tenants are 8, 9, 10 months behind and they're silent. You go over to the property, they're gone, vacated. Any of those?
Not yet. I could hope for that, but no, not yet.
That's
No, actually, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, we have had a couple. And then what we do then is we post a notice of abandonment. That way they can't come back and say that they were on vacation, even though we know they weren't. So we post a notice of abandonment. We send an abandonment letter, regular mail, certified mail. If any belongings are left behind, we state that they'll be discarded in 30 days. And that just hopefully covers our butt in case they come back and say they were on vacation, which we did have one of those.
your postal budget must be through the roof.
It is. It's okay. It's worth it.
You know, in a situation like that, you're thinking, man, that's a double-edged sword. Yeah, up and leave. Oh, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted. But now, oh crap, I lost out on $9,000. If you stayed here, we could have pumped it through the system and got $9,000. See, so we're caught there.
I mean, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to, if time ever permits, file small claims, civil suits against them. You know, we've had some success with that and with skip tracing and garnishments. Not much, but those are, you know, if we get the judgments, they're good for, I think, 20 years. So, you know, here and there, you see those checks trickle in, and I mean, it's certainly better to get the $9,000 up front, but you know, if you can get some money down the road as well, it's helping.
Can I ask another quick question?
Please.
Let's just say you had a tenant that applied let's just say they applied 6 months ago, 5 months ago, and they were behind, they got caught up, they got the money. And, you know, all of a sudden the landlords, you know, we get paid. All of a sudden, 60 days later, they're right back where they were before. All of a sudden they're not paying again. Are they allowed to apply again? Or is it
Yes.
just a one and done?
Nope, they can apply again.
Under the current rules, when EP3 comes
Mhm.
out, that might be different. We don't know.
Right. I have tenants who have received back rent assistance from multiple agencies. So yes, at the moment, they can apply again.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for letting me know. There's so many ifs in this thing. It's like, oh man.
You
I
need
don't know
a
how you guys keep
degree.
track.
I'm with Susan Holman at the beginning, and Colleen's on. She could, for the life of us, how can people be running to these properties and buying these things? They can't figure this stuff out, knowing what we know. And I think it's because they don't know, and they find out the hard way. But the market is nuts out there during this time. I can't explain it. Colleen can't explain it. Maybe she can. But multiple offers over. And we're talking, you know, inner city, Crescent. We're talking rough stuff. It's just it's a competition out there. It's a competing war.
It's because Rochester housing prices are one of the lowest in the entire country. So and we educate our clients. So even with the moratorium and the non-paying tenants, with interest rates as low as they are, and with our housing prices still being affordable, it's worth it for someone in New York City or California to buy here because the property values in the upcoming years are going to outweigh any rental losses that they have now. We just had a client today buy 2 properties. He's an existing client. He's well aware of the moratorium, but you can get a 30-year mortgage for 4%. And if they get a good management company that can do all of this hard work on their behalf, then it's worth it for them. Or you have the local landlord who does all the work themselves.
Colleen,
80 houses sold so far this year.
What are you seeing out there, Colleen?
I just got home. I started my day at 6:15 this morning, and that's the way it's been for weeks and weeks and weeks. My phone doesn't stop ringing. I'm getting text messages every day, emails every day. I've added 2 new people to my team in the last 3 months to try and help me stay on top of things. I've sold more than half of the houses I did last year already. I'm not seeing any slowdown.
Baffles me. I can't make it up. But anyway,
That's awesome.
I can't complain, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, this is just talking to people outside the Rochester area. People are fighting over 4% and 5% cap rates in Florida and North Carolina and Tennessee and Colorado. It's like, why fight for a 4% cap rate when you can just deal with the crap in New York and get 10?
Exactly.
Or even
Right?
8. I mean, I have clients who are happy with 8.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, and you don't find it anywhere else. It's here.
We have always, since I'd say 2007 is when people started flocking here from other areas of the country because they realized we are low cost, high yield rental properties. And there are magazine articles that come out several times a year that say Rochester's the top 10 place to invest. Rochester's post-COVID survivor, Rochester. I post an article probably every day on Facebook that says Rochester is the best again. And every time one of those articles comes out, people call us from all over the world. If the dollar is strong, we have less people coming in. When the dollar gets weak, we get more people coming in. So, it's a phenomenon that I think Rochester is really like, I don't even think Buffalo and Syracuse have as much as we do in this arena. This is the only place to buy investment property to most people.
Plus
And
you
it's
have
crazy.
You also have the University of Rochester and
Yep.
some of the other big employers, Strong, Rochester General, that
Yep.
are attracting young people from, other places in the country where Rochester's just more affordable.
Even when Kodak started laying people off, what happened? We got more manufacturing people coming in to absorb the skilled workers that Kodak was laying off. So, I mean, it's like we are resilient in many, many arenas that most parts of the country are not.
Right. And we also don't see the huge dips that places like Florida or California sees when there is a downturn.
Yep. Absolutely.
I tell all my owners the only way to survive here is through a portfolio, right? The sweet spot is like 15 units. So if you have the existing portfolio, it is great. Keep building. If you're coming into town new with the approach of I'm going to build a portfolio quickly, yes. But if you're coming into town to buy 1 or 2 properties, test the waters, you're done. You ain't going to make it. Just those good properties, you got to take care of the bad properties because you're going to have some bad ones, especially now during this whole garbage that we're in. Tony, you're up.
I've had a couple of wholesalers, and actually one called me today about my personal residence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I know that, and Joe can probably speak to this, wholesalers are probably struggling a bit right now because people know that the housing market is so strong and probably less likely to sell to a wholesaler when they can make more on the market. So I think wholesalers have to work a whole lot harder than ever to get deals.
I asked that question to Joe last week, Joe, remember? And for the same reason. I mean, you're getting squeezed out of the market. I said, Joe, is this happening? He goes, hell no. Jump in and tell us why that's not true.
I mean, look, obviously we're working harder. It's just, you have to elevate your game. We've been super, super busy. We're buying stuff. We have appointments for properties and, again, reaching out to people like Tony. And we're just going through the numbers. Hey, do you want to sell your house or property? And, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people are struggling, but I just tell them, you gotta, whatever you're doing before, you're going to have to, you're going to have to really go 5, 10, 20 times that in order to survive. Luckily we've been doing pretty well. We've been extremely busy.
You're all FFREIA people, right? So you probably got hit with a couple emails regarding the survey that's very, very important in Rochester. Andy, can you run us by that and why it's there, why it's important?
Absolutely. If you have not checked your email and you're on our mailing list, please do so. The long and short of it is Rochester is trying to do the vacancy survey in order to turn on their ability to put rent control in place in the city limits. So they're looking for a 5% or less vacancy rate. That is their target. If they find 5% or less, we will have rent control in Rochester. They will establish an independent panel to control that. And you will no longer be able to raise your rent more than 5% annually for any reason.
And a bunch of other reasons too.
Yeah, there's a lot of ugliness that's coming. So take the survey. It's in chat. Open the chat. The link is there. I'll post it again right now.
And frankly, my opinion is there's no way they could show a housing emergency, not with what's going on.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they can show it or not. If they show up a under 5%, you're going to lose because it'll never go through the courts. It'll never go anywhere. It'll just die. They'll get the results they want and they'll get rent control.
And I think what they don't realize is that rent control is going to hurt the tenants in the end. I mean, we have so many long-term tenants where we've really never raised their rent because they're great tenants. But if they take away our ability to raise rents more than 5%, I think we're going to see that rents will get raised across the board regardless because of those limits, and tenants who normally wouldn't have had a rent increase are going to find themselves having one.
Agreed. And I think this is going to be their ticket to backdoor, the whole Rochester City Council thing that people are talking about, where they're forming a, landlord approval and vetting and licensing system. You're going to get good cause eviction through that as well. I'm calling it now because Albany's doing it.
Okay, anybody else? Are we good, Greg? Am I loud enough? All right. So we covered rent relief, pipeline, some of the things you got to know with that. Anybody want to bring a topic to the table before I move on?
I'll just say that as of right now, New York State has not extended and matched the New York State policies to the CDC eviction policies. So for anybody who was a National Association of Home Builders member back in March or back in October, you can start evicting people effective when the New York State moratorium ends. You are not subject to the CDC moratorium.
Awesome. Come on, Jim Hayes, what do you got out there? Pat, would you like to add something today? Before I give some good news? I'm being facetious.
Could use some good news.
Well, it's yeah, we're getting money. We're getting these we're getting these commitment letters and boom, boom, boom. And that's good. That's good. It's a sign of relief a little bit. So I'll be busy next week. I'll be visiting these properties. They have been silent and getting them to one way or another to get through the process. Remember, it still is a partnership with the tenant. They need to produce important documentation. So yeah, they're in control too, and they have to cooperate and do it. Again, I offered the 1 month free rent. A lot of them are, oh cool, I get that. They're working it that way. And many of them, if you have a quality tenant, they want to do the right thing. They're not there to screw you. Okay, they want to do the right thing. Most of mine want to. I have very few that are taking advantage of the situation compared to the full number of units I got. Yeah, there are a couple, but for the most part, they're all moving forward with this stuff. Remember, we got time, we got money. One thing that's happening with the courts. I'm up there at least once a week because of the funding. The judges are pretty much putting stays on all this stuff, other than the no-shows. They show up, and most are with their legal aids and attorneys. The stuff's being stayed towards June to give folks time to get through the process, and so that's how that's working. And if you have a case, I had 2 cases where one was from last March, like Michelle, 9 adjournments, got us to today. We're just stay it out. We don't want the warrant. We got time. So it's the judges are doing the same thing. And one thing that's to be aware of up there in the Shark Tank, courthouse hallways, you got the legal aids up there, you got the law clerks up there, you got judges, you got attorneys, you got all kinds of people. What I've noticed within the past year, everybody is in the same camp. They are on the same boat to come out with a win-win situation. You don't have this adversarial kind of back and forth thing. You don't have this like, I want to, get away with as much as I can. I don't see that up there. Even legal aid, all those folks with the time that we're in want to work out a win-win outcome. That's what I see up there across the board. That's a good thing. Who wants to jump? Gary, where have you been? Jump in.
Karl, this is Jim Hayes. I guess the only thing that really boggles my mind through all this is I just can't understand why how landlords were singled out and have to bear or have really had to bear the brunt of all this. For instance, why can't people go into Wegmans and say, well, I'm COVID affected, give me the food for free? Or, you can pick up a number of other, a number of other things like that. The fact that it's only landlords who've really, had to bear the, really bear the price for all this in many cases. Although now I can understand how government could say, well, will, help people, that's what our tax dollars, we pay tax dollars for, but the fact that there's been no legal, and I'm not talking local, I'm just saying, across the country, I mean, it just seems to me like I don't understand how this could be constitutional or whatever.
There's 4 words to that, Jim. Housing is a right. We
It's
are-
not constitutional. Yeah.
Right. So we have this strong push of tenant advocacy, tenant groups out there that are just pushing this narrative, pushing this whole concept of housing is the right. It should be not a commodity, not a product like Wegmans. So
Okay.
There are lobbyists out there working on our behalf. There is a lawsuit that's been filed that people can actually donate to, that they're trying to, fight on landlords' behalf. So Under One Roof is an organization that's, pushing for landlord rights. We're trying. There's just, landlords and property owners work and have full-time jobs and don't have the same amount of time that tenant advocacy groups and tenants do. So we're outnumbered. So this is, coming on calls like this and joining FFREIA and Under One Roof and all of those, it's a start in helping the fight for landlord rights.
that's right. Takes a lot of money too.
I understand what you're saying, Carl. I mean, obviously, food, clothing, shelter are the necessities of life, but they're after the shelter, but certainly not the food or the clothing. People don't get free clothes or free food. So, but
Food's not a right. Clothes are not a right.
Unless you live near a Target in Minneapolis. Oh, did I say that?
Yeah, there you go. That's funny.
No, you are correct, and hopefully we'll get to a point one day where we win. We'll see.
Gary, you're on. You're up.
Hey, Carl, I was just gonna add, I don't understand what was wrong with the system before. You go before a judge and especially back when I was smaller, I was represent myself in eviction court. If they showed up and they came in with any kind of money or worked out some kind of payment plan, they were always granted that option to work it out. Very rarely was anybody ever just evicted. So I don't understand why this has all changed since, those new laws that, you go before a judge makes a, common sense decision on what's going on. And, they almost always ruled in favor of the tenant anyway. So I hope we can get back to that system. I didn't think that system was fair, but
Well, let me share.
I don't know why.
Let me share where this came from. Back in June of 2019, that all came from New York City, right? All Democrats, they have an extremely strong tenant unit down there that pushed all this stuff into Albany's ear. And because the rent control was up for the 10-year renewal, and they had to vote on that. They're all radical lefts up there. They go, wait, why do we just have to do this here? Let's just go statewide. This came at the 11th hour, and all of a sudden, boom, there it is.
basically, the Republicans lost the Senate and the state, and that was the killer.
That's right. I know. I let's go back to the good old days, right? Come on.
Bottom line, landlords just need to come together, show up in numbers like the tenants do, show their support, donate to the causes that they can afford to donate to. We just have to come together for this.
Yep. So if anybody knows anybody in any of the other landlord groups, because there's like 5 of them in Rochester, make sure that they're filling out the survey and doing what they need to do. Because I know there's like Southeast landlords, there's a coffee club, there's a couple of other groups, there's the group out of Canandaigua, the Finger Lakes landlords. I have no idea who's getting information, who's not. So spread the word far and wide, get everybody involved that you can to at least fill out the survey if they've got properties in Rochester. And if not, they need to know about Under One Roof. There are dates now. There is a event going on at Turning Stone in October, September. The dates are all assigned and picked. It's going to be a all-day convention, and the next day will be a golf outing. Big fundraiser to get them the money they need to pay the lobbyists for the year. So the hope is to have at least 500 to 700 landlords there, if not more. The first one they did pre-COVID was 400 and change. And they're pushing hard to get the word out on that and make sure people are signing up and that they'll be able to do what they need to do to raise some money.
Thank you, Andy. So the last topic here is another layer of paperwork. So it began a long time ago. As managers and real estate agents, we had to provide the lead affidavit, right, for leases and real estate contracts and, you know, that whole thing. Then, what was it, last year? Then the disability, notice of disability notice had to be come out with the lease, posted in your apartments, you know, that whole disability kind of thing. Here's how you can file a complaint, you know, awareness. Well, we have another one today. And the law just went into effect when? March 2nd. And we're supposed to be doing this now. And here's what it is. Hold on a second. It's a notice disclosing tenants' rights to reasonable accommodations for persons with disabilities. Yes, every tenant must have this notice. There's a sample of it online somewhere. I'm not quite sure. I think, Andy, I think you're going to put that in the FFREIA website eventually. But yeah, it's a 3-page notice. Also, again, how to file a complaint. Just putting people on notice that, you know, the whole reasonable accommodation thing, and what that means, and what we can provide for that. So it's a new disclosure that is among the other two. So
Don't sweat it. Just simply add it to your application packets, add it to your lease packets. If you're able to communicate with your tenants electronically per your lease, email them a copy, print the receipt from the email, mail them a copy, get it postmarked and print your receipt, and just get them out there. It's just one more thing that we need to do. I did them all already.
good. What's missing from this, Michelle, you could maybe tell us, unlike the other ones, there's no sign off for both parties.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, I added a sign off to the one for our lease and our application packet, just to cover my butt, because I'm assuming we'll have to have them sign it one day. But the notification one for existing tenants, we just attached proof that we sent it to them.
Got it. All right. Where can one find, did you make your own, or is there one on the web?
I took the sample one and copied and pasted it into a Word doc, and then added our heading and added the signature spot. And then you have to change the name of the company that's sending it to you.
Right.
But let them do the work. They did most of it. So I just added those couple things in and ran with it.
Cool. You talking about the one from Nick? You on his email?
I don't know if it was Nick or Jamie that sent it.
It was Nick.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. We're winding down here, guys. So any other topics for the table?
I'm just going to say that I think Tony has clocked more time on Clubhouse in the last like 2 weeks than I have, and that's impressive. So I just want to say, Tony, I see you everywhere, bro, and it's insanity. Are you finding value in the real estate groups?
It is fantastic. there's a lot of knowledgeable people on there with a wealth of information and a lot of free information if you just want to go get it. Absolutely.
That's awesome. I hop on and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, check it out. Tony's in this room. I'm going to go listen for a little while. And then Tony's in this room, but somehow I'm the guy that ends up on stage and Tony's the guy who stays in the audience listening.
Yeah, I'm stage fright at this moment, but I'll be all right. In and out.
Out because I removed them.
Oh,
So that was weird.
Now that's what I call a good eviction process.
Well, right now it's the only one that works correctly. So
Yeah, Michelle, so she put in the chat the address for the One Roof funding the legal challenge. The Under One Roof website has a donate page, I understand, also. Is that true?
Yes, those are separate. So you can donate to Under One Roof, which supports the lobbying efforts and everything that Under One Roof does. The fund for the legal challenge is the lawsuit that they have filed for our constitutional rights. So they're two separate.
yep, and it's being appealed right now. So they need the money to pay the lawyer because it got thrown out a week after it was after it was filed for lack of standing.
Is this the one that was filed about a month ago?
It is not the lawsuit from Rich Tyson and
Okay.
those guys.
Could anybody elaborate more on this? If we're going to contribute money, we need to know a little bit more. Expand upon the subject matter and the outcome that one wants.
So this is the lawsuit that Deb was talking about when Jamie was talking about at the FFREIA meeting in March for the general meeting. So that's the lawsuit that they threw out of court for lack of standing, and it is now being appealed because they wouldn't even hear it. It got on a judge's desk and immediately got rejected.
What was the subject matter? What was they trying to say?
I do not remember exactly what the breakdown was, but essentially they threw it out on a technicality. So it was based around I think they tried to claim it was an illegal taking, but the claimants, the plaintiffs, because it was not Under One Roof, it was the NYCRA, they were not, the way it was filed was not filed in a way because there was nothing taken from NYCRA. So they threw it away because they didn't suffer any monetary harm that they could prove from an illegal taking. So now it's on an appeals for the technicality and they're redoing whatever they're going to do, as far as I understand it. The other lawsuit is Rich Tyson and 4 or 5 other landlords also who were talking in that meeting that filed suit, and Rich is actively fundraising for his also. But I do not have a link for his fundraiser, but I have a Zoom with him tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and we will get it out to everybody after that happens.
Yeah, he gave an update on that, and the first wave apparently wasn't promising. And do you know what happened, Andy?
I do not. I did not get details. I'm sure I'll hear about it tomorrow morning.
All right, so we're winding down here. If last call for any comments, questions, issues, and we'll check out here in a minute or two. Oh, Milt's here. Milt, Matt, Michael.
Hey, I have a question, Carl.
Yeah.
When you apply on the tenant's behalf, what's the process? How long before you hear anything, or how does it actually work?
Great. I'm going to defer to Michelle. I'm going to defer to Michelle. She's done that.
Mhm.
I haven't done that yet.
So the first thing you want to do is email the EPPI, and they will send you a copy of the application that the landlord has to complete. They'll send you a document page of what documents you need to obtain from the tenant. There's also a consent that the tenant will need to sign. So what I've been doing, I get the application, I get the document list, I inform the tenant of everything that they're going to need to do. I ask them for all of the documents in advance. Then I complete everything, get them to sign everything, and then submit it to the EPPI for processing.
Michelle, do you fill out the pre-screen info page?
So in the first few that I did, I filled out everything in advance and then realized that some tenants weren't going to get me everything I needed, or some tenants didn't qualify. So now I'm simply sending them the document requirement page, a lot of things I added on myself that I know will help complete the app. And then once I get everything back from them, then I move forward with completing the application.
Yeah, basically it's two main areas: documenting the family household, which is ID, social security numbers, 18 and up, state issued photo ID. They take copies of that, right? Age 17 and under, birth certificates. Are they insisting upon birth certificates?
So in the beginning, yes, but a couple of applications that I submitted, I did not have paper copies of things, and they were accepting them anyway. So they prefer paper copies, but if you don't have them, they're not going to decline the app or decline receiving it. They'll take social security numbers even if you don't have the card. The challenging part is that they need to know the tenant's monthly income, and then they need to know their 2020 income. So that income can be DSS benefits, child support, social security, unemployment, W-2 income. So you have to obtain all of that. Not every piece of that is on that document sheet. So you have to make sure that you're asking the tenant all of these questions, what documented income they have. I don't care if they do hair and get paid. It's not documented. I don't want to know about it. But the documented income is what they're looking for. And if they filed their 2020 taxes, the tax return, that's all you need, and you don't need to do any research for their 2020 income, just the monthly income.
Right. So the way I've been told, and I understand it, you have a choice apparently of the current month of application income, all that stuff, or your 2020 tax return. You have an option.
Right. And doing the applications for them, once you get all of the documents, then you can see, did they do better in 2020, or did they make more in 2020, or are they making more monthly? And they simply have to have COVID-related loss of income, COVID-related expenses, or be on unemployment to qualify.
And let's end it with one last thing, which I do have experience in because I went through it. The property must not have health and safety violations. Now, there's a good thing here. It's not all health and safety violations. Here's what happens. Because you know that without a CVO is an HS. You know that a lead wipe is an HS. Any lead paint is an HS. Okay, so they're not going by the notice and order. Here's what they do. The city code department, there's 4 supervisors over there in their area. They have a direct phone line to the agencies. So the agency reaches out to the inspector. We have violations showing up. I'll get back to you. They actually either go to the property or they look at the notice and order, and they will hand pick what they feel is a real health and safety, not an administrative one. And then they'll call back all right, they need to fix the window. Once that's done, you're good to go. So they're talking to each other. I know this because that's exactly what happened to me on a property last week. there was a number of HSs on the notice and order, but the supervisor said, you only need to fix the window and we're all good. Okay. So there's discretion there apparently. So it's that a hard line, everything on that notice and order HS needs to be cured. Gary Kirkmeyer and others has said also, you don't need to have your renewal or a C of O in play. In other words, if you're going through a C of O process, you don't have to have the full C of O. They're looking at the real actual notice, serious health and safety is on the property. And that's how that's working out. Have you had experience with that yet, Michelle?
Yeah, so we have a couple of properties with certificate of occupancies in process the tenants are applying, and we spoke with the inspectors, and just like you said, they will come and clear the health and safety violations so that the tenant's application can be processed. So they've been very cooperative so far.
Yes. All right, let's, Andy, I think we're all done. We'll wind this down, close it up. Unless there's a question in the chat box. No.
I got one quick question. Okay, Michelle, I've just submitted my application today, and I was asking how long will it take now? You said they will contact me through email?
30 to 45 days.
Oh,
Is
okay, that's what I
the
wanted to know.
average that they're giving. Some are faster than others. So what happens after you submit your application, the full app, they review it. There's a document processor that reviews it. And then they have to reach the tenant. They do a little pre-screening. They verify that that the tenant gave you authorization. So that
Okay.
can be a challenge as well. You have to be able to provide them with a phone number or email address where they can reach your tenant.
Okay, thank you. All right.
And I would also reach out to your tenant and let them know that a rep from EPPI will be calling them to verify all of the information that you gave them and to verify consent to process their app.
Okay. All right. So it's email or phone.
They prefer phone, but yes.
Another question, Michelle, the CARES Act last year, they started out with a RAA, rent assistance agreement. And then they followed it up with a commitment letter, basically a letter of guarantee. That's we're going to pay, you're in, just wait for the check. I'm not seeing that this time around. Have you gotten that far yet, or they eliminate the commitment letter?
I have not seen one yet. I've had a couple of conversations with caseworkers, and in hopes of receiving something from them, an email approval, anything. Obviously we're in the middle of a moratorium, so we can't move forward with eviction, but certainly I've made it clear to them that, we don't want to evict these tenants. We want to work with them. So as soon as we get an approval, whether it be a promise to pay or any email, that, we'll put a hold to the process. So nothing yet.
But you have gotten the RAAs.
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys, let's wrap it up. It's 8:30. I gotta go. Carlene's gone. She has to go eat.
She ran away.
Yep. I'm gonna close it out, Andy. We're all good.
I think we are good. Please take the survey. No meetings next week, as it is an off week. We have the 29th is next Thursday. That is the 5th Thursday of the month. So there is no meeting next week. Enjoy your day off, everybody.
Okay. See you all later. Thank you.
Good night.
Bye now.